Amen. Proverbs chapter 26. And we left off around verse 13. It says, the lazy man says, there is a lion in the road, and a fierce lion is in the streets. As a door turns on its hinges, so does the lazy man on his bed. The lazy man buries his hands in the bowl. It wearies him to bring it back to his mouth. The lazy man is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. So obviously he's talking about the attitude and the characteristics of a lazy individual, verses 13 through 16. Laziness is not a virtue at all. It is always seen as something sinful and wicked, and should not be something that characterizes a child of God. And verse 13 talks about the lion in the road and a fierce lion in the streets. Why would he say something like that? Why would a lazy man make that kind of statement? It gives him an excuse in his own mind that here's the reason why he needs to stay indoors. It's dangerous outside. There's a lion out there. Or there is a lion in the streets. So in his mind, he's trying to justify his laziness and not getting out of bed, not getting out and doing any work. And, our society, by so many things, has cultivated a mindset of laziness with television, with video games, with the gamer mentality, where you sit for hours and hours and hours, and some children sit for hours and hours and hours. They're online, they're playing games, and there's nothing wrong with those things in moderation, but when it starts to develop an attitude of laziness, where things aren't getting done because of the focus on entertainment, then that's when it becomes a sinful thing. Verse 14, it says, as a door turns on its hinges, so a lazy man on his bed. He's going to be on his bed, he's going to toss and turn on his bed like the door on the hinges turn, and therefore he's just going to lay around, be a lazy individual. Verse 15, the lazy man buries his hands in the bowl. Some other manuscripts say this is referring to the armpits. Like the hands are folded in the armpits, and they're just too lazy to bring it back to his mouth. Verse 15. There's just a lazy individual, just taking it easy. And as a result of that, that's the very opposite of being diligent. And verse 16, the lazy man is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. And so a lazy individual is someone that thinks that they're smarter. They don't have to work. Therefore, they in their own mind have a degree of wisdom that's smarter than 7 sensible individuals. And therefore, they have an attitude of self-reliance upon their own inactivity, to justify their own inactivity, and therefore you see the attitude and the sinfulness of being a lazy individual. Yes? Okay, when it flies back, let me know. Verse 17, he who passes by and meddles in a quarrel not his own is like one who takes a dog by the ears. Now what happens when you grab a dog by its ears? It's going to bite you. That's not a smart thing to do. You grab a dog by its ear, especially if you grab it face on, you could get hurt. And that is like a person who meddles in a fight that's not his own. Here's an individual that's not involved in the quarrel or in the situation, in the fight, and they want to get involved. Well, that's like grabbing a dog by its ears. It's a dangerous situation. You don't want to involve yourself in something that is not your own. You're putting your nose where it not to be. You know, if you grab a dog by its ears, you could get your nose bit, quite literally. And so there are certain quarrels or situations that you should not be meddling in. And that's why I talked about the danger of being a busybody in other people's affairs, going around getting in other people's situations. Leave it alone. It's not your situation to deal with. And therefore it shows the foolishness of involving yourself in other people's fights.
Question here for you. That there's times when we should be, when we're involved in one another's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And this is more of a situation, I think, where somebody's just looking to get into it.
Exactly.
You're not trying to solve a problem and
Right.
resolve what's going on. They're stepping in just to enjoy the fight because they like to fight, they like to cause trouble.
Exactly. There are certain situations where you could step in to help reconcile a situation, help reconcile, and sometimes you may be invited to come and to referee, so to speak, a certain quarrel or a certain situation, and that's where you come in, where your wise counsel would be beneficial. But as Jack said, someone who's just looking for something to get into is the situation here in verse 17, just for the sake of fighting, just for the sake of being involved in someone else's affair. Verse 18. Like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, I was only joking. So here you have a situation in verse 18 who is like a madman that's doing something dangerous. All of these items here, firebrands, arrows, and death are all harmful things. Of course, death is the ultimate harm. But they're all harmful things. If you deceive your neighbor and say, I was only joking, of course, this can lead to all kind of bad situations, harmed friendships, harmed relationships, and therefore the danger there of deceiving someone causes all of these problems, like a madman causes these problems in verse 18. Any practical application of that today, or anything that we could think about verse 18 in modern terms? Practical jokes. If you're playing practical jokes on someone, and it's innocent in a sense where the person's going to have a sense of humor about it, he's not dealing with that here. He's dealing with something that's harmful, like verse 18 is talking about. Like all of these items hurt. If you play a prank or a practical joke, so, I was only joking, but you're joking about something that is harmful to them, or hurts them, or injures the relationship or something, that is not wise at all. Yes?
That's where you do something intentionally to harm someone, and then when you're found out, you go, I was just joking about this. I really wasn't serious about
Exactly.
that. You know, in other words, the intent is to harm, yet you play it off as a joke when it's really not.
Right, right. It's a deceiving person, verse 19. He deceives his neighbor by saying, I was only joking, when he's found out that he's the one that caused the problem, and he says, well, I was only joking. He wasn't initially. He's just trying to cover himself up. He's a deceptive individual. So this has many different applications. Yes, did it fly back?
No.
Oh.
Whatever comes out of your mouth is in your heart. I don't know if there's a scripture for that or not.
Sure, Jesus said out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so those things come forth from the mouth, reveal what's in your heart. And so there is danger in an individual like that. It's like a madman, verse 18, who does so much harm, but they're deceptive. And they say, I was only joking about that.
you think about it today, a lot of kids will be saying things about other kids. They'll start rumors about them. Even adults do this, and then they go, "Well, I was just joking."
Right.
It was just
I was
a
just
joke,
joking.
but it really wasn't.
You might have heard about the practical joke that was played on the girl, young lady, teenage girl. A lot of this is done on the internet now, where the parent was pretending to be a young man that liked her, and when she found out that through the internet that he didn't like her anymore, she committed suicide because she was being rejected, and the whole thing was a practical joke. Now that is a very practical application of what you find here. It was cruel, very cruel what they were doing to her, but it was only joking. They were only having fun, but she took it so seriously that she was willing to take her life over some guy over the internet. She was willing to murder herself, and that's what suicide is. Over some guy that rejected her over the internet. So that exactly applies to this verse here. Verses 20 through 22. Where there is no wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no talebearer, strife ceases. As charcoal is to burning coals, and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. The words of a talebearer are like tasty trifles, and they go down into the innermost body. So verses 20 through 22, if you don't have wood to burn, the fire goes out. And when there's no talebearer, strife ceases. Why? Why would strife ceasing be connected with the talebearer being gone? Exactly. The talebearer is the gossip or the slanderer. And they're causing problems. And so when that's taken away, the fire of trouble goes out. The strife ceases. And it's verse 21, as charcoal is to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. Here's a contentious man, contentious woman, either one, that burns the fire and stokes the flames of problems within a situation, whether it be in a family, whether it be in a congregation, whether it be in a place of employment. When they're gone, the strife ceases. You ever worked with someone and they're someone that's stirring up trouble, they're always causing problems, and once they get fired or transferred or they quit, things calm down at the job site because that fire goes out. They are the ones kindling the fire. Same thing within a congregation. You'll have people who will stoke the fires of trouble and contention within a congregation, and when they leave, that fire goes out and things calm down. And then there's peace. And so this has application in so many areas. Verse 22 says the words of a talebearer or a slanderer are like tasty trifles. That's referring to the concept of something, as people say today, you have any juicy gossip. Something tasty, something. Some people crave gossip. It's like something that is they desire to have. And you have these television shows that are about Hollywood gossip. And then that's what they're talking about, other people and slander and gossip and such. It goes down into the innermost body, just like eating something, and causes just problem and strife and difficulty. So the Bible speaks against that. From a wicked heart comes slander, comes gossip, comes these things. And that reveals the type of person that they really are, and causes all kinds of trouble. And a person like that leaves a trail of trouble wherever they go. And it's like wood for the fire and charcoal to the burning coals to stoke that fire. Verse 23. Fervent lips with a wicked heart are like earthenware covered with silver dross. What is dross? Dross is what's burned out of silver. Dross is the unusable part. When you put gold or silver in the refining fires, it's to burn out the dross. So an earthenware covered with silver dross is covered with something that is useless. It's not covered with the silver, it's covered with the silver dross. So in the same way, verse 23, fervent lips, that can be a good thing. If you have fervent lips, but with a wicked heart, that's dangerous. Earthenware, that's good. That can be useful. But why would you put silver dross on it? That's out of place. In the same way, it's out of place to have fervent lips with a wicked heart. You have a wicked mind, a wicked heart, and you have fervent lips, it's going to be trouble. It's going to cause problems. As James chapter 3 talks about the dangers of the tongue. And a fervent lips with a good heart does much good. Gives encouraging words, builds up people. It's going to teach them the gospel. But fervent lips with a wicked heart is something that's dangerous and causes problems. Verses 24 through 26. He who hates disguises it with his lips, and lays up deceit within himself. When he speaks kindly, do not believe him, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Though his hatred is covered by deceit, his wickedness will be revealed before the assembly. Person who has hatred disguises it with their lips, and lays up deceit within himself. Very few people come out and say, I hate you. They're not going to come out with their lips and say that. And they disguise it with their lips. How was Jesus betrayed by Judas? With a kiss, with his lips, literally. He gave a greeting to his master and said, "Oh, master," or "Oh, rabbi," and kissed him to identify him from among the group of the disciples there in Gethsemane. And therefore, by his own lips, he was giving a gesture of love and acceptance to Jesus. The whole time he was doing something that was hateful to him, betraying him with his lips. Verse 25 says, when he speaks kindly, do not believe him. When they speak kind words, flattering words, you don't believe this person who is hateful. For there are 7 abominations in his heart. Why would he use the word 7? Hebrew number for completion. Complete abomination in his heart. They're not honest. And they are the ones that can cause the most problems. You know what's interesting in my short experience, and I've talked to other preachers who have more experience than I do. Some of the people that give you the most problems in a congregation where you preach are some of the ones who speak with their lips the most flattering things when you first get there. They are your biggest fans at first. But then when you step on toes, they have things they have to say against you and they have to leave. But yet at first, while the honeymoon period is going on, you are the best thing since sliced bread. And they will say that with their lips, but when the rubber meets the road, some of the most hateful things come out of the same lips that praised you just a few months earlier. So it's the deceit that's disguised by the lips. Therefore, when they speak kindly, do not believe him. Verse 26 says, though his hatred is covered By deceit his wickedness will be revealed before the assembly. He is going to be revealed for what he really is. Someone who is deceptive, someone who is flattering with their lips, but their heart is filled with hatred. Verse 27, he who digs a pit will fall into it, and he who rolls a stone will have it roll back on him. You ever heard the expression, he's dug his own pit? That comes from this verse. You know, you get yourself in trouble, like you're digging. The more trouble you get yourself in, the more you're digging and digging, you'll find yourself in a pit. And that's exactly what he's talking about here. And you've caused your own problem. And if you're rolling a stone, it will come back and roll back on you. You're causing trouble, like rolling that stone, it's going to come back. Esther chapter 7 and verse 10. Mordecai was hanged on the very gallows that he built for Haman. Was it Haman? I got him mixed up. Which is which? Haman was hung on the gallows that he built for Mordecai. Right, that's it. Haman was hung on those very gallows. He wanted those built and wanted Mordecai hung on them. But it turned around upon him, and he was hung there himself as a result of his own foolish decisions. So the concept of making your own bed, you lie in it, the problems that we cause are usually our problems we place upon ourselves. I think it's safe to say that most problems that I've experienced in my own life are self-imposed. Problems I've caused myself by foolish decisions. I think everyone here can agree that we can sometimes be our own worst enemy, as we have made decisions that are contrary to God's will and have done things that we cause problems in our own life. We dig our own pit and we find ourselves trapped in it. We roll our own stone and it rolls back upon us, reaping what we sow. Yes?
I was going to say, a lot of times what I find funny is when people do that, and they'll say, well, I guess this is the way God wanted it. You know, they did it to themselves.
Right. Right. They blame God for their own misfortune, and they brought the misfortune upon themselves. And right, they want you down in the pit with them. The whole concept of misery loves company. They don't want to be in that pit alone. Yes.
I think if you look at all these verses from 23 through 28, it says you can try to cover up your wickedness, but it will find you out eventually. And I think that goes to Romans, the wages of sin.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Deceit only works, so to speak, for a short time. It only works and it only deceives other people. It's not going to deceive God. It only deceives other people, and it will be found out, and all deception will be punished. Verse 28, and this goes along with it. A lying tongue hates those who are crushed by it, and a flattering mouth works ruin. So that lying tongue is a tongue that hates those who feel it sting, so to speak. It's crushed by it. It's never a loving thing to lie. It's always wrong to lie in every situation. And that flattering mouth works ruin. It does not help things or benefit things. Yes?
Psalm 7, 14.
Psalm 7. Did you say 14 through 16? Behold, the wicked brings forth iniquity. Yes, he conceives trouble and brings forth falsehood. He made a pit and dug it out and has fallen into the ditch which he made. And it goes along with it. His trouble shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealings shall come down on his own crown. So that goes along with that verse. And the wicked cause their own problems, and it comes back down upon them. Yes?
Something just got me. I was wondering whether 16 the Lord hates,
Right.
7 are abomination, and less than 7. And really, all 7 of those cover right here in this section of 17.
Exactly. It's like what you have here is almost a commentary on those 7 abominations that the Lord hates. If I remember right, 2 of them deal with our use of our speech. 2 of the 7 abominations deal with the use or the misuse of our tongue or our speech. So those who are deceitful, those who are lying, will use their tongue to their own advantage, and sometimes they will flatter to get an advantage, and really they're trying to take advantage of someone in some type of way. You can find this with people who are trying to sell you something. They might compliment you on something. You know, ordinary circumstances, they would not compliment you. But since they're trying to get you to do something, they'll use flattery to try to make the sale or something of that nature. And so it's one of those things where you're thinking, you'd say this to anyone that was here because you want to sell this item. So the deception is used all the time, and it is wrong in every situation. Chapter 27 and verse 1, do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring forth. Let another man praise you, and not your own mouth, a stranger, and not your own lips. So verse 1 here talks about boasting about tomorrow. The one thing that we cannot be sure of is that there will be a tomorrow. All we have is today. All we have is right now. You know, we make plans. We have our schedule. We have our plans for Monday. And all week long, we might have a weekly planner. We might have monthly plans laid out. But we cannot boast about it. We don't know what the day may bring forth. You know, realistically, not trying to be morbid, but by the end of the week, they could be planning my funeral. That's just the reality of things. So we can't be guaranteed anything, and that's exactly what James is talking about. James taking these thoughts by inspiration. James 4 and verse 13, he says this, come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such city, spend a year there, buy, sell, and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Indeed, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or that. But now you boast in your arrogance. Such boasting is evil. Therefore, to him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. So boasting about tomorrow as if that is a guarantee. And we're not guaranteed a tomorrow. And we're not guaranteed really the rest of this day. And so many, live their life as though the future is guaranteed. I mean, we all expect to live to a certain age, 80, maybe 90, and die in a comfortable situation surrounded by our family, and that's not always how it works. We never know. It's like a vapor. Our life is like a vapor that's here for a short time, then it's gone. And as James said, we have to have the attitude, if the Lord wills, we will live and do such and such. And that means if the Lord wills, He'll give us the time to live and do what we make plans of, and our plans are according to God's will. That we're not doing anything out of harmony with His will. That's expressed in the Scripture. So we cannot boast about tomorrow. You do not know what a day may bring forth. Life-changing events can take place in the matter of seconds. Yes?
On the side of the building of Joe's Crab Shack, it says, "We crab tomorrow." Because tomorrow will come.
Okay.
I mean, when you think about it, they say, "We'll do it tomorrow."
Sure. You never know, because tomorrow never comes, because it's always today. So it's always pushed forward. I'm not sure that's exactly the
About tomorrow. I mean, when
point
you think
here,
of
but
it made me think of that about tomorrow.
exactly. Tomorrow is always ahead of us. Tomorrow, that concept of tomorrow is always ahead of us, and we will never reach tomorrow, because tomorrow will be today, and there will always be a future. Now, whether we're part of it or not is not guaranteed. We don't know when the Lord's going to return. He could return. We're planning on having a 6 o'clock service tonight. I hope everyone here will be here tonight. But there may not be a 6 o'clock service tonight. The Lord might return. Where would you rather be? Out doing your own thing at 6 o'clock tonight, or being assembled with the people of God and worshiping God and studying His Word? We don't know when things will end. Look at verse 2. "Let another man praise you, and not your own mouth, a stranger, not your own lips." We are not to be a people who boast and brag and pat ourselves on the back. That should not be the attitude of a godly person. They should allow someone else to praise them. Let someone else say you did a good job of something. Don't toot your own horn. Don't blow your own trumpet. And that happens when a person has a sense of arrogance about themselves. They want you to know how wonderful they are, because they're wonderful in their own eyes, and so they're going to brag and boast about themselves. And so that attitude should not be among God's people. We should have a humble attitude. We let a stranger or someone else praise us or pat us on the back, and we don't do it ourselves. Verse 3, "A stone is heavy and sand is weighty, but a fool's wrath is heavier than both of them." Now, why would a fool's wrath be heavier than sand or a stone? A fool in his wrath can do things that cannot be measured, so to speak. They will do things impulsively. They are someone, and verse 3 4 goes with that. "Wrath is cruel, and anger is a torrent. But who is able to stand before jealousy?" A person who is full of jealousy, full of wrath, full of anger, that is a fool. They're not going to have self-control. And as a stone is heavy, it can be measured. Sand is weighty, it can be measured. But what a fool will do in his wrath and anger can be off the charts, because they have no self-control. They have no ability to control themselves. They're like the city that has broken down walls, as we studied earlier in the Proverbs. They're open to anything. They have no boundaries. And therefore, they're a very dangerous individual to be around, and can do so much damage. I believe that's the thoughts that's trying to be conveyed there in verse 3 and 4. Verse 5, we'll end on this verse, and we'll take up our study next week. "Open rebuke is better than love carefully concealed." Why would that be the case? If you love someone and you conceal it, is that true love? Open rebuke is better than secret love. Because if you openly love someone and you see that they're doing wrong or they're engaged in a behavior that's detrimental to them, if you really love them, what are you going to do? You're going to rebuke. You're going to say something. And that shows genuine love. Who wants carefully concealed love if you can help someone? And what rebuke is constructive criticism. It's not just criticism, it's constructive criticism to help an individual do better. They have to recognize what they're doing is wrong, and they're instructed on how to do better. It's not just simply criticism. And when you rebuke someone, you do it out of love because you want them to be helped. You want them not to harm themselves physically or spiritually. Therefore, you will openly rebuke them. You'll say what has to be said rather than knowing you have to say something, but you don't say it because you don't want to hurt their feelings. That's the love that is carefully concealed. And I'm reminded about the commercial. Used to play it years ago about a young girl was walking along railroad tracks and there's a train coming up behind her and she's totally oblivious to it. It's a commercial about drugs and the danger of drugs. And the friend's over to the side and sees the train coming, and she's talking to the camera saying, I know my friend's going down a path that's going to be very harmful, but I don't know what to say to her. And the train's getting closer. And if I say something, I could lose her as my friend. And the train's getting closer. And I really just don't know what to say. And the train's getting closer. And it just stops right there. And it says, talk to your friends about their drug problem. And that is exactly what's being said here. If you, in love, openly rebuke someone and lose that friendship, it really wasn't a strong friendship to begin with. Because they ought to know that you are motivated by love to give them that constructive criticism. But if you conceal your love for them and let them continue in their behavior that can be very detrimental physically or spiritually or both, then how could you really say you love them? We'll continue our study next week, Lord willing.